so important.
Well, let's go ahead and see the prize cards. Those are so important as well. Just one Mirage Gate so far, and I think that both players will be able to work with this. A little awkward to have the Glaring Zigzagoon in the prize cards there for Gibby, but maybe could find that one card with the Hisuian Heavy Ball.
All set. Looks like we're going to be having an exciting match between these players. Winner moves on to the finals at the regional championships here in San Diego. The loser goes home. Here we go. Let's get it kicked off. Top 4 between Ryan Harris and Gibson. Archer-Tang, and Gibby's going to be able to start things out with the Hisuian Heavy Ball. Has an option to grab one of 2 Pokemon, but I'm pretty sure we know which one it's going to be here.
Yeah, that is a very nice find. Very early on, just going to have the entire combination locked up, ready to go. There is an interesting strategy when you're playing this deck where you can go ahead and just deal the 60 damage with the Vikavolt and the Zapdos, and then of course you sneak in that 10 damage. Before your opponent's ready, they have to then promote into this, and you just continue that item lock strategy over and over again. Kind of as like a pseudo lock, but not really.
And that's it for Gibby. Just going to go ahead and attach the energy to the Vikavolt V and pass things over as Ryan gets things kicked off with a capture energy, can grab Comfey out of the deck. And this is what we've seen time and time again. We saw this last round with Pablo in top 8. 2 main cards to get the Lost Zone going, get the engine rolling. It's Comfey and Colress, and I already saw Colress in Ryan's hand, which is exactly what you want to be doing on your first turn.
Yeah, and look at the consistency paying off here. So many times we look at the list for a Rayquaza list, and you're not going to see any of these special energies, but sure enough, 2 capture energies and 1 in the opening hand is so big here as we see the Comfey and already the Colress's Experiment. This is likely going to lead to a lot of cards in the Lost Zone, which is hard to do against the Vikavolt.
So having a selection of cards, keeping 2, throwing 2, or keeping 3, throwing 2 away to the Lost Zone. And you can look at this as Ryan's pretty much only turn for a while to play items. He's going to try to utilize Scoop Up Net, switching card, Escape Rope, cards like that to try and draw into as many cards as possible. But more importantly, send cards to the Lost Zone so things like Cramorant can deal damage to these Pokemon. It does need 4 cards in the Lost Zone to attack for free. Having to get rid of Energy Recycle, but you see it's so important to prioritize things like Scoop Up Net to pick these Pokemon up, reuse the ability, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, we're not going to have opportunities to play these item cards if we're going to be item locked, so play all of the ones that you can at this stage, and this is ridiculous. Another Scoop Up Net. We're going to see 5 cards in the Lost Zone already, and there's another!
Scoop Up Net has come to town, and he's picking everybody up. Everyone's getting their ride back to the hand and back down to the board. Scoop Up Net picking up these Comfey, already at 5 cards in the Lost Zone. Listen, I've heard of myths of the turn 1 Mirage Gate. It's possible.
Never on stream,
but
though.
It doesn't. No, surely, right? Surely it doesn't happen on stream. Looking at the hand, there is an air balloon. It's possible.
It definitely can happen.
It is in hand. Like it is legitimately in hand. So, 5 cards in the Lost Zone. I believe the flower selecting, getting rid of Sableye, card that is good in this matchup. It's all right, but usually it's not a factor because it's hard to get the 10 cards in the Lost Zone. And Gibby also playing pretty smart here. Limiting the bench on turn 1 means that Raikou is not a threat to one of these 2 prize Pokemon. But Ryan's still got plenty to do. Switching cards in hand. Has another Comfey. Can still retreat. We'll be interested to see what the promotion is at the end of the turn. Do you play more passively? Now again, the Zapdos allows the Vikavolt to take a 1-hit knockout onto Cramorant, but it's just short of taking knockouts on Comfey. So, do you buy a turn and sacrifice a Comfey to get more cards in the Lost Zone? What do you think? Or is it worth just going in right away with Cramorant?
The aggression definitely seems like it would be warranted at this stage because you don't expect to get this far with all of these cards into the Lost Zone on this early turn, but we're just going to see the pass here for Ryan now with that air balloon locked in place, just assuming this Comfey is going to be sticking around, and rightfully so, as we do see the double cross switcher play here now, bringing up that Cramorant.
Getting punished for not being aggressive, saying, hey, if you're not going to attack me, I'm going to bring you up and deal some damage. Concealed cards now online as well. Energy search to start getting things in. Look, we said we were not going to see the Aerodactyl V-Star. It's in play, at least for now. It does have 2 retreat costs, a little bit more HP, but more importantly, fighting things. We could honestly see it attack. There is a fighting energy on it right now, and it does deal enough damage to take a knockout on Raikou.
You know, maybe this is a Raikou deck because he went ahead and featured both those cards on the list, and Gibby's going to respect it and go ahead and have that big fighting Pokemon potentially ready to go.
Yeah, missed the Zapdos, though, was unable to take this one-hit knockout onto Cramorant, dealing just not enough damage, 10 short. And yeah, Ryan under Idle Lock is just going to say, I'm going to hit you, I guess. That's my play that I've got at this point. Is Gibby's going to start the turn back up, finally finding Ultra Ball. Also has, oh, remember, does have the Galarian Zigzagoon still off the Heavy Ball. That could be a way to finish off this Cramorant.
Yeah, even if you have the Zapdos, you don't immediately play it down because it lines up knockouts like this, where your opponent now has to promote a Pokemon that they really wanted to get a maximum effect out of, and instead, they might not, because you have an opportunity here to get down this Zapdos now, and if you have another Scoop-Up Net, you could just remove this Pokemon from play with the Galarian Zigzagoon if you so chose.
Setting up Math, able to take the first prize of the game. Gibby off to a fantastic start. It really comes down to what's next, though. This Vikavolt has taken 110 damage, so what is the next piece? And the fighting energy goes down into Aerodactyl. This is a Pokemon that swings super hard, 240 damage, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there at this point. Paralyzing Bolt, 60 damage again, but this Comfey was able to get down the Air Balloon before, and what a great draw there, drawing into Raihan off of this Flower Selecting.
Yeah, we do see this is a pretty solid hand here to work with. At least another energy along the way, too. So certainly the Vikavolt could be knocked out this turn, and it looks like that is going to be the play here.
So we can draw a card with Fleet-Footed. Lightning Rondo is dealing enough damage to take a knockout. 20 plus 20 for each bench Pokemon in play. And since there are 8 bench Pokemon in play, it's doing 180 damage. More than enough to take a knockout. Ryan's responding in the prizes, and the question now is, what do you do here if you're Gibby? You've got the potential to just knock out with Aerodactyl V-Star, but you're allowing your opponent to have item cards. It's sort of the give and take that you have with this deck. Only one bench spot as well means that there's not as much flexibility to move Pokemon around. And if you just leave this Raikou here, it's dealing enough damage to be a consistent attacker. This Pokemon has a lot of versatility the more I'm thinking about it in this matchup specifically.
Yeah, it works out fairly well. You get to remove this big Pokemon in that Raikou. And we see the Rayquaza's already down on the bench for Ryan. So if there is no item lock, certainly there is some reach here.
V transformation on the Ditto V, allowing it to switch with one of your V Pokemon in a discard pile. That is going to be 1-0, as we are going to see the Aerodactyl V-Star come up into the active spot. However, it's already been attached to, so are we going to be seeing a V-Star power here? This is a pretty interesting line. Oh, wait, we still haven't seen our supporter card yet for turn. Melody can come down and power this Pokemon up.
Yeah, this is going to be a nice way to go ahead and make the most use of this Aerodactyl V-Star, locking in the Lost Dive as a big way to take 2 prize cards here and put the pressure back onto Ryan. It's going to take 4 different basic energy types on that Rayquaza in order to remove this Pokemon from play. And with the item lock that we've seen over the last couple turns, maybe that's difficult.
And Melanie actually going to power up the benched Vikavolt instead. Not going for this Lost Dive onto the active Archeops instead. And instead, finding double cross switcher.
Oh.
This can target down the Rayquaza on the bench. Scoop Up Net can take the Pokemon out of play. And what the Scoop Up Net also does is it plays around the fact that Lightning Rondo could take a knockout with full benches.
Yep, the Rayquaza also has that lightning weakness, so that's going to be a quick knockout there. And maybe this is also Gibby just respecting the power of the Rayquaza, knowing that that is the one Pokemon that truly can knock out this Aerodactyl, and is going to cash in on the use of this item lock one more time.
Definition of a glass cannon, so to say. Updates over on the other side of top 4. Nathan Ginsburg taking the first game over Grant Shen. That is Mew VMAX up against Duraludon, and this is a matchup where Mew's teched out. If Mew's playing things like Echoing Horn, it's very hard for Arceus Duraludon to really have the answers. So, of course, we'll keep you updated on top 4, but this is the match we have in front of us at hand.
Yep, we see Ryan trying to get the job done once more, filling the bench all the way, trying to get this Lightning Rondo to take a knockout here against the Vikavolt.
It doesn't play any card like Galarian Zigzagoon that could get the last 10 damage needed if it was played. Of course, Lost Mine can also fill up. It's a really weird situation here. There's already 8 cards in the Lost Zone against this matchup. You really don't see that a lot, but all 4 Scoop Up Nets, I'm pretty sure, are gone or in the discard pile. Raihan as well can get the energy onto Sableye, and this could fetch any card out of the deck. There's plenty of options. Well, what could Ryan possibly want in this situation to put himself in an even better position?
It looks like thinking about a future turn here, going to go for the boss's orders. And looking at the rest of the Pokemon here, there are certainly some Vs that could be targeted down. And you could see a double knockout perhaps with that Lumineon or the Crobat in combination with this amazing rare Raikou, and you clean up the Vikavolt that you're already attacking into now with this Raikou.
So there we go, Lightning Rondo, 200 damage. Not quite enough. Can be finished off later in the game with Sableye. No way to heal this Pokemon up. It's going to be action on Gibson. Lots of lines of play. Of course, Vikavolt is a pretty hefty Pokemon, very slow, unable to move out of the active spot easily. And we've also seen 4 Cross Switcher be played at this point, so that is no longer an option. And the interesting thing about Gibby's list is he's playing playing the 1 copy of Hisuian Heavy Ball and actually drawing back into it, which means if he so chooses to, he could find the Drapion that is still in the prize cards. But instead, this is where we're at. So there's a pretty big pivotal turn at this point. There's a lot of options they go for, but what really is the option that you think is going to propel him into the best situation?
I mean, if you're not going to be able to disrupt the hand here, then at least you have to maintain the item lock, because the amazing rare Raikou on the bench is lined up to do some pretty terrible things to you on the following turn if it can get a second energy down. You also don't really want to walk into the Raihan as well, but at least that means that you can't see the boss's orders as well.
All things to consider. Lots of options as well. Utilizing the Galarian Zigzagoon to deal the last 10 damage there to take the knockout on to the damage Comfey before. So now at 3 prize cards left. This Vikavolt, again, cannot easily move out of the active. The Aerodactyl on the bench is doing plenty of damage to knock out anything over on Ryan's side. What ends up happening here? It looks like we are seeing Escape Rope get played here. Both Pokemon moving up into the active. This card's slightly off screen, so it's a little hard to tell what is getting played exactly when. But this can be potentially moved out with Scoop Up Net, which it looks like gets played. So the Scoop Up Net means that this Aerodactyl V-Star can come up into the active spot. 260 HP. It's a little bit heftier of a Pokemon. Sort of that weird in-between number. We saw Whimsicott have a pretty low 250 HP as a V-Star Pokemon. Right. Upwards of 280 HP as a V-Stars, and 260 is like a nice middle ground, I feel like.
Yeah, and you know the utility of the Ancient Star, we're going to go ahead and let it slide.
Lost Dive, non-attack, you see utilized a lot. It does have a pretty hefty drawback to put 3 cards in the top of your deck in the Lost Zone. And of course, those cards cannot be recovered and they don't benefit you anywhere. Unlike Ryan, you don't get to use Cram, and you're not playing Cram just for the purpose of being able to attack with Lost Dive.
Well, looks like Gibby is going to go with this more aggressive route here with the Aerodactyl now, and all that's needed is 1 more energy in order to start using Lost Dive. Take the knockout here on a pretty threatening Pokemon in that Raikou, who would have been able to take a 4-prize knockout if there was no item lock in play and this hand was held onto.
The problem with utilizing this attack is the fact that, 3 cards Lost Zone, actually not too bad. If there are 3 cards you can Lost Zone in your deck, those seem like pretty okay cards. But the problem now is items are free for Ryan to use. Promoting the Sableye for turn is still at 4 prize cards, so we'll still need to be able to take a few prizes to close out this game. Of course, over on his side, though, does have the Raikou V on the bench. That could be a big liability coming up.
Yeah, we've seen just 2 prize cards remaining for Gibby. Obviously wants to remove that V Pokemon to close things out here. Ryan's going to have to decide, do you go ahead and target down the benched Vikavolt that you could just remove from play with a couple damage from the Lost Mind? Of course, we're going to need to see 2 more cards get into the Lost Zone in order for that to happen, but certainly there are some cards that can help out in this situation to get there.
These are the choices. Of course, Ordinary Rod shuffling back the Pokemon and energy cards into the deck. Cramorant is a great way to just apply some pressure to be able to finish off these bulkier Pokemon or set the math up with Sableye. And the smart play of the capture energy as well onto the Comfey. We've seen this time and time again. You're not attacking with it, so why attach energies to it? Well, it's because you want to consistently pivot into these new attackers.
Oh, we're going to see the Raikou right back onto the board here and the Mirage Gate 2 to set things up.
And the question is, if you attack with Raikou this turn, you're leaving this Aerodactyl V-Star in play, fully powered up, and it's very clear what Gibby is trying to go for in this game, to use this Aerodactyl to take these knockouts onto the most valuable Pokemon, and that 2-prize Raikou on the bench, dealing 480 damage. That's more than enough to close this game out.
Colress's Experiment's going to be the supporter for the turn here. Going to get to 10 now. But boy, could you imagine if it was Boss's orders this turn. Would have been absolutely devastating for Gibby. Instead, it's just going to be 10 in the Lost Zone, and maybe Sableye is going to have to do a little bit of work here.
Does find Oranguru, can utilize that Primate Wisdom later on to save some cards and energy. Opting to find the final energy. It's all these energies are gold, there's bling, it's all over, and then there's just, I mean, I guess the Psychic energy too, but it's kind of so close to being perfect, but sometimes not quite there.
You know, if you get all the way to the finals, I feel like some of that prize money will help out.
Surely the deck gets finished. And even at this point in top 4, earn plenty of cash for getting there, as well as championship points. So I'm sure we'll be seeing Ryan at future events. And that's it. Yep, shows the boss. Gibby's game plan was very clear there. Using the Aerodactyl, Ryan had no response, no way to knock it out. It's a pretty big Pokemon. And with that in mind, Gibby takes game number 1, not even having to item block his way through the game, showing us, hey, you thought this was just in here to shut down Lugia? I'm going to show you this guy can swing.
That's right. Yeah, you use the item lock as best you can to go ahead and give yourself the prize advantage. And at that point, the Aerodactyl was just way too much to deal with. Was able to knock out the Rayquaza before it ever got going here. And that means that you're just going to see Ryan attacking a couple times too short. Not going to be able to remove that big Pokemon from play. And we'll see if the strategy switches up here. I feel like hands don't get much better than Ryan's, though, on that opening game there.
I have to imagine that in that position, maybe going for something along the lines of the amazing rare Rayquaza to just knock out the active Pokemon. And sure, you face down item block later on, but at least your opponent's very clear win condition on the board is removed. I didn't know the exact resources left in Ryan's deck, and of course there was a Mirage Gate and the prize cards there, and had to utilize Colress as the supporter for choice, which, I mean, sounds like a bad thing. Whoa, we're using Colress as our supporter,
no.
But it still could be necessarily relevant. But the more I thought about it here, I think Ryan will continue to opt to go second, because Gibby's plan, turn 1, is to always go second with this deck, in this matchup specifically, because you want turn 1 item block. And the more access you give Ryan on that turn 1 of using Colress to find more items and Scoop Up Net to find more options for Colress, the more limited it's going to be. So we'll see how this game plays out. As we get to game number 2, plenty of time to play. Surprise cards go out for both of these players. 2 Speed Lightning Energy, card that you want to, of course, see early on, but nothing too detrimental at that point.
Yeah, it's 2 of the 4 Speed Lightning, and oh no, this isn't good. 2 Scoop Up Nets going to be in the prize cards there. Those are so crucial to the early stages of the game for Ryan.
So here we go. Looks like Gibby opted to go first last game, because Ryan will choose to start things out. His hand is looking like a very solid going second hand, but for going first, not too much happening. Does have Colress and Cramorant, as well as the Oranguru and Capture Energy on the Raikou. Ryan, I think, really understands how valuable Raikou V is in this matchup. It's a Pokemon that can take multiple hits from Vikavolt and dish out some solid damage.
Yep, of course, having that Capture Energy is so crucial. Going to be able to find the second Comfey, hopefully chain those together, get at least 2 cards into the Lost Zone, and maybe that just means that Colress's Experiment can line up for a card like the Cramorant to get in there, do a little bit of work, and just soften up these Pokemon on the other side from Gibby.
So grabbing another Comfey in these flower selectings, we say this every time on the first turn of the game, but especially going second against an item lock deck, they are so crucial to trying to find things like Battle VIP Pass and Scoop Up Net to really pop off on the first turn of the game. A really rough choice, having to get rid of Mirage Gate or one of these Comfey. Of course, you want Comfey down to set up, but can you really afford to get rid of these Mirage Gate pieces early on and then have late decisions where you're forced to decide whether or not to play the game as you would, or Lost Zone things are important. Finding another Mirage Gate 2 has to concede that one away, choosing to grab the energy so that the retreat option is there.
Yep. Also, just knowing where the Lightning Energy is can be relevant in the early stages of the game. If you need to get aggressive with that Raikou V, that would be beneficial. Yeah, it's going to be a quick pass of the turn, but at least you got 2 in the Lost Zone.
And Gibson starting it off excellently, playing the Battle VIP pass, grabbing Mew and Vikavolt. And a smart choice there from Ryan of limiting the bench. Had the option to play Oranguru down, but understands that Raikou versus Raikou is a very scary matchup. If you ever played back when Suicune V was a card, that mirror match became a grind fest of, wait, can I overcommit my bench now? How many bench do I play? It gets pretty complicated very quickly.
Yeah, it's something that we've seen already on stream before with Gibby playing against one of the other Lost Box players earlier on, and it's just over again and over again, having to manipulate the bench, use those scoop-up nets defensively, and it can definitely get weird.
So Usuian Heavy Ball will not find anything, but does give Gibby prize information about what prize cards are there. Surprised to get rearranged. Does put Melanie to the bottom, so that could be relevant for later on in the game. And we are going to see the cross switcher right away going after Cramorant, the Pokemon that it doesn't really seem like it threatens Vikavolt and paper, but it is a very strong Pokemon at dealing with Vikavolt. It's just a one-prize Pokemon that 2 shots, and if you're getting the first hit in, that's positive trade on your end.
Yeah, definitely want to know where this Pokemon is, and if you can remove it early on, that's going to be very beneficial here. It's an easier Pokemon to knock out as well, just because it's got that lower hit point mark too, and maybe you can manipulate the math with it. But this is not the turn here for Gibby.
Wow, just has to pass, doesn't even get an energy attachment down. And Ryan just has full freedom to pop off and play whatever they would choose to play. Easy Lost Zone choice with the Battle VIP pass, opting to also get rid of Ordinary Rod. You're under item block a lot, so it does make sense to do that. As Escape Rope will force, a Pokemon up into the active spot. Almost going to be comfy, guaranteed on Ryan's side, as we're already at 4 cards in the Lost Zone with a 2-prize Pokemon in the active spot. Kyle, I think this can only spell trouble.
Yeah, this is starting to look scary here. Ryan definitely in the driver's seat now with 5 cards in the Lost Zone here. Scoop up nets starting to flow too.
So picking up the Comfey, we're at 5 cards, so 2 more flower selections will be all that's needed. And there is another Mirage Gate, so 2 Mirage Gate in the hand. Has access to the Air Balloon as well as a energy to retreat this Comfey. Almost certain we'll see that, but it does depend on what the attacker choice is. This Raikou can still come up and deal some damage, but now that Ryan has opted to bench 4 Pokemon, it means that Gibby's Raikou of his own is in range to knock out this Raikou. And this whole mathematics of how do you manage your bench, how do you manage your resources, already this Lost Zone deck against whatever it's playing against has to manage the Lost Zone and manage what energy you discard. Now you also have to manage how I set up with my Pokemon. It's just one more element to add on to the already complex turns and strategies you have to utilize when playing Lost Zone.
Yeah, I think it's a warranted risk as well. So if you're not able to remove this Pokemon from play, then of course Gibby's still going to need to find a bunch of Pokemon, and this is not the ideal turn that you've seen from your opponent, holding on to 4 cards and not able to even get an energy down for the turn.
I mean, I would treat this almost like a bonus turn for Ryan. So Ryan expected some sort of item lock or disadvantage to come out on the first turn of the game, but that was not the case. And then so able to utilize cards like Mirage Gate, build the Lost Zone up to 7, get this amazing rare Raikou powered up immediately. So I don't know if this Comfey has a way to retreat. Of course, Air Balloon already happened. It looks like there isn't right now, but Ryan's going to take the opportunity to just play all of these Mirage Gates, which is good in the moment right now, but later on that you've already Lost Zoned 1, you've played 2, you're limiting your options for damage down the line. See if that comes back to bite Ryan.
Oh, all the attackers are lined up here, and Gibby is going to try to draw out of this mess, fleet-footed, and we do see Escape Rope and Quick Ball.
Choice is, what do you promote? What do you expect your opponent to attack with, right? So in this case, there's the Raikou and the Vikavolt, but Vikavolt is what most likely will always come up and hit. So the Greninja is a nice medium balance because you don't want to give up something like the Comfey with the Zigzagoon Ping and the Zapdos from Pokemon Go. But at the same time, you don't want to give up a Pokemon that's valuable, right? That's going to have a little bit more value. So Greninja is a nice medium mark. It's a good draw engine, of course. It doesn't really care about item lock. It's always going to be giving you a good amount of cards. But at the same time, things can always get tricky. But here's a combination of cards. Energy Search to find Quick Ball to discard the energy. And then the Quick Ball finding Lumineon to find Melanie. We have a lot of different tutor cards in the format to find cards out of the deck and get them played. And finally, the first Melanie we're seeing of game number 2. Drawing 3 cards, 2 speed lightning energies are prized, but already has the basic lightning energy in hand.
Yep, can't even be bothered to remove the fish from the legendary dog. Just going to keep on rolling here. And we do see the lightning energy, so that means that the Vikavolt is going to be ready to go. Scoop Up Net is going to be able to promote this Pokemon into the X spot, and here comes the item lock.
And there it is. Zapdos will bring this damage to 120, so Gibby's using a lot of these attacks that don't quite knock the Pokemon out, so it stays stranded in the active spot, but still allows Galarian Zigzagoon to be able to deal the final 10 damage. But here we are. We're back in the item lock zone. We're back in the Vikavolt zone, utilizing the energy to retreat the Greninja into this Raikou. Things are about to get scary really quickly. The Raikou not being knocked out by something like Paralyzing Bolt, and dealing 120 damage to both the Pokemon in play that can attack and deal damage back over on Ryan's side.
Yeah, this isn't exactly the easiest Pokemon to deal with right now, and we'll see what Gibby ends up doing here. You either can overcommit, attach another energy, and knock this Pokemon out with a Super Zap Cannon, but then you give up the item lock, and yeah, that's just going to be a scoop.
And Galarian Zigzagoon taking at least one prize for Gibby, but says, you know what, I can't win this game. Let me take control of game number 3. We'll choose to go first or second. Here we go. Top 4 going into game number 3. With how these games have gone so far, it feels like it could be anybody's, but it really depends on these first crucial couple of turns.
Yeah, definitely. The item lock is so important, the amount of cards that reach the lost zone as well. If Ryan is able to play his game, then you have to think that it's going to be Ryan in the finals here. But Gibby's going to look to disrupt that as early as possible. We know that this deck can get the turn 1 or the turn 2 item lock. I'm going to be interested to see what Gibby ends up choosing here. Do you just go ahead and give yourself that one turn now, or are we going to switch the strategy up?
In my position, if I'm playing this matchup personally, I think not allowing your opponent to play Colress and play more item cards is just so much more important. Of course, it's a lot harder because if you do miss the Melanie on that turn, the game starts to spiral out of control, and exactly what Ryan did happens, where you get to 7 cards and then you play Lost Mine, or you have access to Lost Mine maybe down the line, and you have Barrage Gate, and now, oh boy, I have a Pokemon that just hits 120 on 2 of my things that I have to 2-shot with my item lock with Paralyzing Bolt. Yep. See what Gibby chooses to do.
Maybe you have to use a little more of those utility Pokemon as well, using the Lumineon or the Crobat, and that just leads to a bunch of Pokemon that you don't really want on your bench. So give yourself that extra turn. Maybe you draw into that Melanie without having to use any help from your friends here, and we could see a nice, clean game.
It looks like some sort of a deck issue.
What is happening?
Things are like back and forth, backwards and forwards. So it looks like Gibby will be starting things out, and with the look of that hand, I'm sure it's very relieved that that is the case right over here. So looks like, of course, for those who don't know, the prizes are sometimes flipped on the table, where usually it's instinctual to just put your prizes to the left. Instead, that will not be the case, as the prizes go out for both players. 2 Scoop Up Net again in the prizes, also Radiant Greninja and Colress out, and importantly, too, the Raikou that has been beneficial in both Game 1 and Game 2 away in the prize cards.
Yeah, it's been putting a lot of pressure on Gibby, and it's not going to be available early on for Ryan now, and I don't know if this hand is going to be able to get it done here for Ryan.
This is an instance of where having Greninja in the prizes is actually beneficial because of the Hisuian Heavy Ball. But besides that, may be very reliant on these next 3 draws, as Gibby has the perfect starting hand. Battle VIP Pass to find the Mew and the Radiant Greninja, allowing him to not only get these water energies in the discard pile, build the hand up, draw cards, use Mysterious Tail, and get the setup going.
Yep, has the lightning energy, even has a way to discard the water energy, 1 in hand, and of course the Radiant Greninja as well, so continuing to build this hand now, and this is going to be scary for Ryan.
Trekking Shoes as well. We'll keep the card immediately. Melanie snaps it to the hand, wants that for the future, gets the attachment down as well. Fighting Energy is the top deck. This is so bad.
Please.
Ryan is going to get the news, probably praying, please have Greninja or co-VP
The one time that you wanted prized.
I wanted the prizes, and it's there. He gets bailed out by the Greninja and the prize cards, but at the same time, you also want to grab the Raikou out of the prizes, so you can fleet-footed for one and hope you find pieces, or, I mean, it has to be Greninja. If Raikou gets grabbed, you know, these players in top 4, not me, right, at the end of the day, but, oh, he's going for Raikou.
Here we go. Yep, this is definitely a very aggressive route that you can go. You can get this Pokemon potentially into the active spot early on, draw extra cards with fleet-footed, and put the pressure onto the Vikavolt. It's only dealing 50, and you're going to be dealing a little more than that, but it's definitely a risk.
So The Raikou goes to the hand. There's nothing happening this turn. Can retreat into the Raikou and draw one card off of Fleet-Footed, which is, I mean, sure. It does have Raihan in hand as well, so that could be a follow-up for the other turns, but maybe Ryan's considering, maybe I should have drawn some cards this turn. Maybe I should I should have used some concealed cards, but of course, the downside is you don't have access to this attacker later on, and that's it. Just attach pass, no battle VIP pass, no Chorus, Melanie right away, which means item lock is going to start, and Ryan has done nothing to thin these cards out of the deck that don't help him at all.
Yeah, I mean, you play 4 battle VIP pass, you play all of these item cards. You have 0 cards in the discard, and you're up against item lock.
Finding the Zapdos as well. Lightning symbol means that this Sableye will be taking 60 damage. It opens it up for Zigzagoon to be able to do things, but there it is. No pressure at all. What's the top deck? It's another energy card. It is at least lightning energy.
Lightning.
So it can attack later on. That's it, pass.
Wow, yeah, this is so quick here. If Gibby's able to find the Galarian Zigzagoon in combination with a scoop-up net, that's going to open up an avenue where Gibby can really cash in some big damage. Oh, we see the boss's orders.
This one, that one. Yeah.
Gotta choose which one.
The bossing up the Raikou. We're seeing speed, lightning energy onto the other Zapdos. Lightning symbol, not gonna really be, I mean, you have Electro Ball, you can deal 80 damage to it with that, but that's all you really have at this point. Could go aggressive with Super Zap Cannon, but is it really even worth it at that point? The only thing this setup is lacking is building up other attacking Pokemon, but is more than happy to just set up a 2-hit knockout. What's the top deck? It's another lightning energy. Do you attack? I think we might see a retreat potentially.
Wow, just going to have to pass the turn once more. Ryan finally get some cards in the discard pile, but that's not the way you want to do it. Retreating, and Gibby is going to keep on pushing here. Do we see the Zigzagoon? Here it is.
Galarian Zigzagoon can take a knockout in combination with something like a scoop up net, which I assume would be in the hand if you're grabbing it. So there it is. And yep, there it is. Galarian Zigzagoon scoop up net. What Pokemon do you promote? Lightning Rondo is a great attack if you have friends to support you, but with no friends, how much damage are you really doing?
Oh, yep, this is brutal, and we do see the knockout already. Ryan's just going to draw an energy. I don't think there's very much that can be done here. Fleet-Footed, an extra card. It's Cramorant. Oh, no.
So you can boost the damage by 20, maybe put one of these energies onto the Rayquaza, and that will be the choice. So
thankfully, there's Raihan.
Yeah, and luckily a few bench Pokemon were found too, because right now Raikou isn't even hitting for a 2-hit knockout, which can easily be fixed if the next turn Ryan were to bench a single Pokemon, but at this point it is things to notice. And you do get to search out any one card, but what one card do you search out? I think Ryan making a smart choice to find Chorus as, sure, you can grab Mirage Gate. I mean, never mind.
Please don't grab Mirage
Sorry,
Gate.
Please do not grab Mirage Gate. Usually at this point, Mirage Gate would be a great option when you have 7 cards in the Lost Zone, but not in this situation. Ryan has not used a single flower selecting all game so far.
Yeah, I guess thinking about the future, double Chorus experiment maybe leads to the Cramorant being able to do something later on, but that's 2 turns, and I don't know if we're going to see that many turns lined up here. Gibby's going to go ahead and start building up another Vikavolt on the bench now.
Has Scoop Up Net in hand, so there is the potential for plays regarding that. So we're actually going to, yep, there we go. Super Zap Cannon dealing 200 in damage because of the Zapdos on the bench. Enough damage to take the knockout, and this does open up items. Ryan showing, hey, look, I've got it now, so that's all right at least. Does have access to items too, but really has to make the most of this. Gibby is down to just 2 prize cards remaining.
Yeah, this is the risk that you take here. It's, you know what, the item lock did exactly what it needed to do. Bought me some extra prize cards, and Gibby just needs 2 more to close things out here. You have to think that that's going to be a lead that you can handle, given that Ryan only has 2 cards in the Lost Zone right now.
So the goal here is to get to 4 cards so that Cramorant can at least attack and deal some damage, but that is still a little bit of an uphill climb. You have to find A, the pivot into the first Comfey, B, the second Comfey, which this Capture Energy does grab, and then C, the third pivot to go back into this Cramorant. So a lot of pieces are still missing. There is a single switch card, so that is number 1 piece, but really going to be big. What does this flower selecting find? 2 cards. Chorus would normally be good, but at this position, you still need to find more switch cards this turn.
Yeah, we have the retreat available, so you have that capture energy that can go ahead and move that.
This is it right here.
You can't find escape rope. It's got to be the actual switch.
No, doesn't find either of those. This Comfey is stranded in the active spot. It's already retreated. There's no switching cards in hand. The Vikavolt is still up here. what can happen? You get to 4, but at what cost?
Damn, we see the quick ball. Is there a Pokemon that could potentially help out here to keep things rolling? A Rangaroo, one last chance.
You see Gibby excited too, saying, look, if you've got it
If
off
you
the
do-
Rangaroo, I've got to respect it, right? Then that's cool, right?
Of course.
I would respect it too.
Yep, leave it up to the Primate Wisdom. If it can find the magical card here out of, what, 30, 35 at this point, then you know what, good for you.
We'll see exactly right now. Colress going to the top. And
That is the worst one there is.
Monkey's fortune was not with him today. And that's it. Gibby going to take top 4, advancing to the finals with this Vikavolt Aerodactyl.